Raw dogs. Woo! Happy Thanksgiving week, everybody. I wanted to get on here and tape an episode, talk to y'all a little bit here before Thanksgiving, maybe give you something for your Thanksgiving road trip as you're moseying along here. First and foremost, I hope all of you are doing well and staying healthy. The coronavirus, as we'll talk about a little later on in the show here, is at a new high. And Trump's failure when it comes to responding to COVID is complete and total. Mark Meadows saying we're not going to contain the virus now, nearly a month ago, has led to some really, really terrible consequences. And first and foremost, I am thankful for my health. If you are healthy right now, and I hope that you are, I hope that you are feeling thankful for your health as well. It is something that I hope this year has taught all of us not to take for granted, that it is a gift. And on that same level, I have found myself becoming an appreciator of the blue sky and the sun and the morning. I know it's like sentimental, poetic shit from Chris. But like, I'm actually getting this weird sense of comfort from that stuff that I heretofore have not gotten. I just think it's super important to find little things to be grateful for. And that's kind of what I love so much about this holiday is that it's about gratitude. I know, like, well, it's called Thanksgiving, Chris. But like, it's cool that we have a day where we recognize that there is a lot to be thankful for, that there's a lot of good around us and a lot of things to be appreciated that are around us, a lot of people to be appreciated that are around us. And that, like, it's so easy to be like in this tight little box or just be like in your tunnel, work, doing the same task for 8 hours. Lord knows I know that one. And not think about the good stuff that's around you, whether it's your family, whether they have four legs or two legs, or a cane, whatever it is. It's easy to not appreciate that you've got that around you. It's easy to not appreciate just simple stuff like it's sunny out or that I can have the windows open and the breeze feels really good today. And politics radio in particular does not ever, it doesn't trade in good feelings. Other than the like irrational exuberance thing that you're just simply never going to get on this show here. What politics radio tends to trade in is negativity. There's a group of enemies. They're fucking us over. Whoever it is, whether it's Rush Limbaugh with the golden microphone or the Chapo Trap House guys sitting around their computer and well, I make it sound like they're low budget, but they're not low budget, are they? So whatever it is, there's a perceived group of enemies, and you riff negatively about it, and like there's just not a lot of stop and like listen to this really good song, or like, man, it's a nice day out today, or my cat just did an adorable thing. There might be an occasional my cat just did an adorable thing. A lot of radio people like cats, I've noticed. Wonder what that's all about. Nah, I've got guesses. Antisocial types, serial killers, all of them. Anyways, so I think it's important to have gratitude, and it's something that I'm trying to bring a little bit more into the brand here, or like a little bit something more positive, and a little bit more broad looking. Trump's made it so easy to focus on the one acute negative thing for the last several years. But it's Thanksgiving. Want to mention real quickly, obviously, I'm thankful for my parents. I'm thankful for my four-legged friends who very much keep me sane. especially during the coronavirus here. As I mentioned, I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for don't worry about the government because, well, I think it's easy to go, oh, don't worry about the government's Chris's show. It is the show I take care of in the same way that, like, Yuffie and Shadow are my cats, or Chesterfield or his. I think Chesterfield's really adopted me. But like, I don't think I'd be allowed to go. He'd just follow me to the ends of the earth. But like, um, they're their own. It's their own. They're their own being, and I'm the caretaker of them. In the case of don't worry about the government, what does that mean? It means that like the show was made by Ronnie Weiss and Ethan Chang and Joe Genie, and without them making the show for what it was for 180 episodes, this show wouldn't be coming up on episode 500. Similarly, without Stephen Thomas cajoling me into relaunching the show, because I was really just trying to hand that fucker over to him. I did not want to get back on the air. This show would not be coming up on episode 500. And without, obviously, in the touchy-feely sort of way, but like in a really serious way, without you supporting the show when we launched the Patreon, this show would not be coming up on episode 500. I'd probably still be doing politics somewhere, maybe writing stuff and submitting it and not getting published. No, that one. And not even necessarily getting good feedback other than please try again at some point, Mr. Novembrino. Or I, I'd be doing music. Yeah, I've got a band. There are definitely other things I'd be doing. And I'd be doing those things, but for you. And I would never have learned that I'm halfway decent at this, or how to pay modest amounts of taxes on a radio show. Like, dude, there's been so many things that I have gotten from this show that is just more than me staring at myself in a mirror. And it's because of all of the other people associated with the show, whether you're playing music or you're talking into a microphone. Without an audience, it's bedroom dibblings. The audience is what makes it real. And the real connection with the audience is super important. And that's the other thing I've been thankful of. Because I have grown the show in stupid and inefficient ways. Let's be real. I have gotten the opportunity to build one-on-one relationships with a bunch of y'all. I would never be so bold as to be like, we're friends now. But it's been really cool to like actually know the personality types of different members of the audience, to be able to talk on the microphone and imagine how it lands for this person or that person. Like it's very, very cool. It's very much a gift. And so, yeah, thankful is my vibe here today on Thanksgiving Eve. All right. And I'm thankful that this time I have not been interrupted by a neighbor who tried to smoke pot, that I've not been too high to get through this monologue. And it looks like we're going to get into the show and it's going to be okay. You guys want to see the slate here? The video thing has made me really self-conscious. And I feel like it's messing up my game. I've got to press ahead. I have no choice but to press ahead. But Lord, if you think I look awkward on camera, this is exactly why I avoided doing this shit for so long. It's weird talking into this green dot. People do this all the time. Green dot. I mean, I get now why, like, you got some of these guys who are like looking over here, like they're not even looking into their camera on the thing. That feels weird though. It feels like TV's got to be going into the dot, right? Right? Yeah. These people. All right, so the slate. Why did I write the slate? What's the show about? This episode's theme is kind of based around a discourse that I've been seeing happening on Twitter, where you've got anti-progressive types, Clinton establishment, Biden establishment types, people who are exes of the Clinton administration, in some cases like Joe Lockhart, really playing dumb about the history of the Clinton years and playing dumb about the history of the Obama years. And I want to, I guess, in the Clinton parlance, correct the record, and illustrate that one, that their understanding of the history is bad, and moreover push back against what the politics of the possible are, or at bare minimum what their presentation of what the politics of the possible are. But I would surmise to you, surmise, submise, not a word, but we just made it up. I would submit to you that the election in 2020, a complicated election that says a lot about the politics of the country, and it's a complicated picture. But one thing we could decidedly take away from this electoral college map is that the politics of the possible are different because the battleground states are different now. So part of that, what I want to just do is be talking about facts on this episode. So updates and corrections, and then forwards, not backwards, kind of taking a look back and correcting the historical record. But you can kind of see this theme about the shifting electoral college map. The libertarians spoiling 37 electoral college votes. Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, the new battleground states. Very, very different states. Arizona, California almost. Got some California transplants. Georgia, totally different sort of state from the Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio triangle that we've had etched in our mind for so many years here. And Wisconsin, a very different state. Different performances of whiteness in all three of those states. Wisconsin's whiteness different from Georgia's whiteness. Different minority demographics in those states. Very heavy non-white population in Georgia. Distribution of where all these things are very different in all these states. Totally different battleground states means a totally different version of the politics of the possible. So even without the history lesson, I could just talk about the news and we could kind of shoo away some of this history scolding stuff. But I do want to push back a little bit on the kumbaya stuff that is being revisited by the Biden people and people talking about how like Obama or Clinton were really good at that. They weren't. It didn't work out well. I also want to do a follow-up on the show, one of the shows I liked the most of this year. Hopefully you liked it. But the episode Changing the Voice of America, where I talk about how Michael Pack arrived on the Voice of America. I did a lot of research on that show. Not that I don't do, multiple articles. Like this little section has like 2 different articles on, but I want to talk a little bit about Michael Pack. And he's faced legal troubles. So we got some follow-up on that. And then we're going to talk about some of the new people coming into the administration. And then we will talk a little bit about just a quick history lesson of holding the Trump administration accountable, the Obama administration's challenges with holding the Obama administration's challenges with holding the Bush administration accountable. They also didn't do a good job kind of setting up bulwarks against Trump. That's a different conversation for a different day here. But yeah, we need to talk about all of that and accountability going forward. And then I want to revisit Kyle Rittenhouse for a moment here, and why I think Rittenhouse is a harbinger of bad things to come. Probably fairly obvious, but I really think cold water needs to be poured on the Biden narrative that Republicans are going to come to their senses after the election. A thing that he said multiple times during the election, that he believed that he uniquely, unlike that Elizabeth Warren, unlike that Bernie Sanders, that he uniquely was going to bring the Republicans to their senses. He is not. He is not. And we'll talk about why not on the show here. And then last, I kind of want to go over COVID-19, Scott Atlas, the vaccines, and the numbers, and, just kind of put this thing into perspective and talk about Donald Trump's performance on COVID-19, and putting that into context. Now that he's leaving office, now that we've hit an important step in the journey, we've now moved far enough along in this part of the journey that we can start looking backwards at it. We can look backwards as we are looking forward to the other leg of the journey. And yeah, just kind of put into context just how bad Joe Biden is, or I'm saying Joe Biden, Donald Trump is as president, and how on just the coronavirus stuff alone, despite how bad Joe Biden might be on other things, crossing some wires here this morning. It is still early. Gonna need some coffee before we get on the air. Joe Biden is going to be a relief just because Anthony Fauci and not Scott Atlas is going to be making decisions when it comes to COVID-19. Thank God for that. So that's what's on the docket here. I'm going to stop the share so we get me back on a full screen here. Do a little bit of the coffee thing. Hey, well, I'll take a poof. I'm a poofer. Everyone always thinks it's funny I call it the poofer. It makes little poof clouds. Poof cloud. Poofer. Poofer. Poof clouds. Poofer. While I'm poofing on the poofer, I think about someone or something you're thankful for. I'm not going to go and edit out 15 seconds of downbeat. So, think about something you're thankful for. I'm going to do the same. It's like a friggin' fog machine up in here. No, don't ever start smoking. I'm thankful that I largely got off the cigarettes. Probably should have done that a little bit sooner, especially since I wanted to do radio. But I didn't realize I wanted to do radio. Don't worry about the government. Honestly, this is for real. Is probably the reason I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. Because if I was still just gigging and stuff, since I don't really sing, I'd probably still be smoking. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, and Lord knows I'm still smoking. Yeah. Some old habits die hard. All right. Let's get into the show. Let's fire it up. Let's make the magic happen. Ladies and gentlemen, hello again, and welcome back to Don't Worry About the Government. My name is Chris Novembrino. On today's episode 491, on the march to 500, we have updates, we have corrections, we're looking forwards, we're not looking backwards. Well, we're looking backwards, but other people don't want to look backwards, but this show's still going to look backwards. It makes kind of sense. I'm friends with Bruce Carlson, and My History Can Beat Up Your Politics, and I like to do these little history lessons every so often myself here. So we're going to do a little bit of looking backwards here. But first and foremost, let's begin with this. The threat seems over for now, but it appears Donald Trump's attempt to feebly challenge the election and reverse the outcome of the election has been defeated. And I think it is easy to chuckle about what has happened over the last several weeks. Like Nate Silver's going, it's a lot of garden gnomes, underwear gnome stuff here. Trump wants to steal the election, ? Election stolen, or the courts. But what does this mean? Trump wanted to get a Supreme Court justice onto the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett. And he said that he wanted her on because he thought that he could challenge the election all the way up to the Supreme Court and overturn the election if he lost the election. Prior to the election, he changed the Postmaster General to this guy, Louis DeJoy, a major backer of places like UPS and FedEx. And it's not an accident that those stocks are performing very, very well, as the USPS is at an all-time trough in terms of performance. It's as bad as it's been in the last 2 to 3 decades. Meanwhile, private parcel deliverers are performing at all-time highs. Part of that's COVID-19. The other part of that, though, is Louis DeJoy. It's not an accident. And he owns a ton of stock in places like UPS and FedEx. Good companies. But like there's a reason why we have the mail service on a federal level. So yeah, like Trump has been trying to get rid of votes, and he had DeJoy slow down the mail. He had votes get tossed out because they arrived late. Hundreds of thousands of votes got tossed out because they arrived late. So it's easy to talk about how some of these margins in states are narrow, so narrow that libertarians can swing them, as I will bring up. But it's worth noting in the backdrop of even that commentary, my own commentary, as I say with everything involving the 2020 election, there's like a commentary backdrop to whatever commentary, whether it's the establishment Democrats or like the bitter enders on the still burning left, like there's a context to whatever commentary is being given. Even with my own on the libertarians riff here, there's the backdrop to this fact that Louis DeJoy was tossing out votes. There was an attempt to suppress voting across the board. So why wasn't the Democratic vote count higher in key states? Because in key states, there were attempts by the Republicans in those states to suppress the vote, specifically in areas where it would help the Democratic electorate. So when you suppress the mail, which is helping the Democratic electorate, when you're suppressing polling locations, shutting down polling locations, making it harder to get ballot or get access to voting by voting ID laws or purging voter rolls, all of that stuff sums together to serve as a pretty good voting suppression mechanism, and it ends up effectively getting you votes. So when people say Trump was trying to steal the election, he was trying to steal it before the election. Then he's been trying to steal it after the election. If we want to wind the film reel back a little bit here, what was Trump feebly impeached and narrowly impeached over? He was impeached over trying to get dirt on who was ultimately the person he was going to face in the general election, Joe Biden, from a foreign ally and using the federal government and federal funds, withholding federal funds, in an effort to do so. They could have impeached him over trying to get dirt on other opponents in the race. For example, Elizabeth Warren, he was trying to get dirt on her from China. He was also trying to get dirt on Joe Biden from China, but they figured they had an easier case with Zelensky. They could have impeached him over the stuff that Mueller found out. Some of what Mueller found out involved Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, a scenario where he essentially cheated during the 2016 election by using funds illegally to silence Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels so as to keep them from coming out and talking about their affairs with Donald Trump right after the Access Hollywood tape came out. That probably would have sunk his candidacy. It certainly would have affected the way those final debates played out. And given the narrowness of his Electoral College margin, he essentially probably cheated to win the 2016 election. So he cheated during the 2016 election. He cheated in the run-up to the 2020 election in multiple ways in 2019 and in 2020. He got impeached over cheating in the 2020 election. And then after he lost the 2020 election, he has been trying to overturn the results of this election, up to and including calling in people from the state of Michigan to see if maybe they could get a different slate of electors nominated so that he could use the Electoral College, a thing that he once hated and once said was bad. Within the last decade, he said the Electoral College was bad. Donald Trump tried to get the Electoral College to overturn the results of the popular vote. It's like crassly, like in the most crude way possible, use the Electoral College to subvert the popular vote. He's been cheating, coming and going. And I feel like the establishment media and frankly, some leftist publications have been so busy chortling at the feebleness of the attempt that they're failing to accurately understand the malice of the attempt. And this kind of gets into what's going to be a theme throughout this show. I think it's worth doing a bit of a history lesson here. Coming out of the Bush years, those of us on the progressive flank who supported Barack Obama over Hillary Clinton as a means of getting more progressive goals were supportive of Barack Obama in no small part because of his posture, his stated posture during the campaign, that he was going to hold the Bush administration, at least, if not the individuals in the administration, the actions of the administration, to account and really kind of draw a line in the sand to say, no, you don't do this stuff anymore. And a lot of us were worried about a worse than Bush scenario. The idea that there could be a president, which seemed hard to imagine at the time, but that there could be a president who is actually worse than George W. Bush, who had worse instincts, would do worse things if left to their own devices. And in a lot of ways, character wise, Donald Trump, no doubt in my mind, character wise, Donald Trump is worse than George W. Bush. It's not that George W. Bush is a great man by any stretch. It's just that Donald Trump has absolutely no moral core. We know this to be the case. But Donald Trump's worse moral core than George Bush has been tempered by his ineptitude, by his incompetence, by the boobs he hires as lawyers, by the fact that he's not smart enough on a given subject to actually affect change, by the fact that people who are smart enough to really cause serious damage to the administration, you could do a flim-flam job on Trump and make him think that that person is stabbing him in the back, and he will turn his back on that person for fear of getting stabbed in the back himself. There are a lot of incompetent and boobish aspects to Donald Trump that have tempered his absolute malice. But I leave the Trump years terrified that Joe Biden is going to do nothing to really hold to account the Trump administration, or even to close all the doors that the Trump administration went through to abuse power. That Joe Biden is going to really embrace this looking forwards, not backwards rhetoric, and want to talk about accomplishing stuff versus, holding people to account. We got to unite the country. We got to unite the country. And if you're worried about uniting the country, what I would say to this is, I don't share that same concern. But I really don't. But if you were worried about unity versus division, the thing that is going to absolutely 100% lead to more division is someone worse than Donald Trump who is more competent than Donald Trump. Someone who understands the pro wrestling aspects of playing to the activated Donald Trump Republican base, that secret tranche of kind of antisocial voters who heavily participate and identify with whiteness. Someone who knows how to work that crowd and also knows how to actually play the DC game and doesn't just think it's an extension of a television show. That person's going to divide the country up infinitely more than holding this administration to account. And if you don't think that person is coming, I just want to tell you, people told me that during the Barack Obama years, and then worse than Bush showed up right at the end of his term. I thought it was going to be a couple of terms. It comes faster than you think. It comes a lot faster than you think. All right, now we got to go to the corrections department. I got to correct myself. Prior show, and the show prior to that, a couple times now, so wrong multiple times. Well, not wrong at the time, but now not right. I mentioned that libertarians spoiled 57 electoral college votes, which would be devastating for electoral politics for the Democrats. And it's still really bad, but it's a little more modest than that. The total is 37 electoral college votes, not 57 electoral college votes. And the states that were spoiled were Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia. Interesting indicator, reflector of the battleground map these days, the changing nature of the battleground map. An interesting and powerful reminder that the winning margins in these states are super narrow. And if you're playing our home game here and you subtracted 37 from Joe Biden's electoral college vote total, you probably arrived at 269, 269. Yeah. So that doomsday number, where things get really, really stupid one election, it actually comes a little closer in relief, mathematically speaking, now that the Electoral College map has shifted, I think. At least if you're taking into account these battleground states and you say run the election the exact same way, Michigan, Wisconsin, or Michigan, Minnesota go Democrat, but Wisconsin flips red. Not impossible. They did elect Scott Walker, right? There are Republican voters in the state. Um, you have something like that happen. 269 is entirely possible. But what remains true is that the margins for the Libertarian candidate, Jorgensen, especially when you factor in Blankenship in Wisconsin, hold in all three of these states. But for the presence of that third party, the Republicans win that state or win those states. It gets tossed to the House, which is confusing because you're like, oh, the Democrats own the House. Yeah, but they don't because it like divides into state legislatures because of the stupidity of the Electoral College system. And the idea of 50 concurrent presidential elections happening at the same time. Um, and then the Republicans win in the House by using a weird gerrymandering process of the House of Representatives. Uh, you know, there are a lot of arguments against the Electoral College system, and I've made a lot of them on the air. One that I have not heard made anywhere else yet, but I will certainly be bringing up even more so, is that the Electoral College system is just in the beginning part of this show, just think about like the way it runs through these first couple few stories here. It is deeply destabilizing to the legitimacy of our system. Whether it's the fact that Donald Trump can pull like weird parlor tricks, and he's not good at it, but imagine someone who was. They can pull parlor tricks and essentially overturn the state's presidential election and just create a slate of electors and send that up to the Electoral College. And there's nothing but like the norms that protect that. And also the fact that like faithless elector laws now are more stringent and stuff too. Like there's really nothing to prevent sending up a slate of electors and subverting the will of the state other than the elected officials of that state. Like we say we have a democratic process, and we do for senators, for governors, for pretty much every official, but for the president, which is essentially like there is a step that looks democratic, but it is surely a Republican process. And it's stupid, it's corrupt, and it's damaging to the legitimacy of the system. And if you can't see, if you're a norms and civility type, how this system is just this glaring red sign of a problem down the line, if it's not already causing problems, looking at the 2000 election or looking at the 2016 election. But if you can't see the red signpost saying this is a problem, red signposts always say that. But if you can't see that, I don't know what more to give to you, but that is yet another argument against the Electoral College. Beyond it being a dumb mechanism, beyond it being something designed for 13 states, it's been extended into 50 states. The difference in the shapes of the states, disproportionality, the way it creates a battleground state system where campaigns only go to 30 or 13 states and don't regularly appear in 35 states, and over the last 20 years and have not appeared in over 30 states. Presidential campaigns just don't go to them. Beyond those problems, it's creating a crisis of legitimacy long term. Two elections decided by the non-winner of the popular vote. A threat for 269 splits growing. The willingness to abuse the Electoral College system at an all-time high. We've always known it's a dumb system, but the difference between the 90s and now is now you have Republicans and constitutionalists like Mark Levin making constitutional arguments, originalist arguments, the ones that I made fun of, about how to use the Electoral College to subvert the presidential election. I mean, they're being naked about it. This thing is making matters worse. And I just, it's worth noting. I'm banging the drum until I'm blue in the face because it's if you're worried about the norms, this one's got to go. This one absolutely has to go. All right, that's all I got to say about that. I'm going to apologize too. One of the downsides of taping in the mornings is I don't know which day is landscaping day, and landscaping day sometimes is on Tuesdays, sometimes it's on Wednesdays. Sometimes they do it on different sides of the building. I thought we did it yesterday. We're apparently doing it this morning. So a little bit of landscaping might be occurring in the background here. I apologize for that. Let's talk about the Voice of America. You might remember, who could forget vaunted episode 466? A classic of the 2020 radio canon? I would say so. But if you don't remember, episode 466 is called Changing the Voice of America. And I talked about Michael Pack and how he was an ally of Steve Bannon and how he was taking over the Voice of America and had already, by the time I was taping that episode, was overseeing a purge. I've been following it all through June because I saw what was happening, could kind of see where it was going. And then the purge is happening before my eyes. It was pretty crazy. That went into court here. And a judge ruled that Michael Pack curbed the First Amendment rights of the journalists at the Voice of America. In a 76-page ruling, Beryl Howell, the judge, found that Michael Pack, the CEO, violated the First Amendment rights of the journalists at the Voice of America and found that Pack and his team showed, quote, an extensive pattern of penalizing those at the network whom the defendants regarded as insufficiently supportive of Donald Trump. So as I said on that episode, what I viewed Michael Pack as doing, and it wasn't really hard, and while it was speculative in like the definitional sense of the word, it was predictive, like in the sense of if company A gets good news, what do you think is going to happen to its stock price? Like, yes, I could speculatively say that maybe the stock will go up, but like generally, A connects to B. And like it made perfect sense that Michael Pack was going to do this because that's what he was talking about doing. Everything he had said about the Voice of America kind of foreshadowed this, and then he did what he said he was going to do. The ruling by Judge Howell bars Pack and others from continuing any actions that would curb Voice of America's editorial independence. One of the things the Pack did, I mentioned the firewall that was set up between the editorial and the journalist side. He was actually in the process of taking down the firewall. He had suspended 5 executives, senior executives at the Voice of America. He said that the lawsuit alleged the Pack and other top employees sought to interfere with the work because it didn't align with the political interests of Donald Trump. And now kicking it over to some NPR copy. That first copy was from CNN. Pack announced in late October, so just not that long ago, that he was scrapping the firewall that shielded the newsroom from political interference. And that firewall was actually set up right before he took office. So it took him several months to dismantle it, bought him just enough time to do this lawsuit. And the advent of Joe Biden winning the election and this lawsuit means that crisis averted at the Voice of America. So if you're asking me again, well, what good is coming of Joe Biden? Well, the Voice of America, again, you don't have to necessarily be like, well, I care a lot about that, Chris, or I don't give a shit about the Voice of America. But here's the deal. Voice of America is not going to be serving as an outlet for Donald Trump. And it's not going to be serving as a warming up. And what I was more worried about was a redistribution fund for One American News Network. And if you think One American News Network is bad, they were going to use Voice of America as a way of giving all of the One American News Network people an imprimatur of credibility. This person did some time at Voice of America. And meanwhile, Michael Pack was going to continue to churn out pro-Trump propaganda and use the government payroll to pay off conservative loyalists. So you'd maybe even get like appearance fees from the Voice of America, which would all be coming out of taxpayer dollars, which would be used to keep conservatives like Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, probably not them specifically, but like lesser knowns like that, lubed up with money so that they can keep going out there and doing Viewpoint. Like, if you ever wonder why there's so much more conservative viewpoint on the air than liberal viewpoint on the air, it's because conservatives get paid really good money by groups like the Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Heartland Institute, a lot of these, like dark money think tanks. And some liberal podcasts are able to launch six-figure Patreons or whatever. But like this show, I work a 40-hour-a-week job. I will get done taping this show today. I will edit this show during my lunch break while I'm working at my other job. I work from home, but I have to work. And then I do this show. We make a buck a show, patreon.com/DWATG. I'll just slide the plug in right here, right quick. That's the show. That's like how this shorter show makes money. The conservative sphere has a lot more money floating through it. And what was going to make a Voice of America really nefarious was going to be that it was going to be a way of using essentially lib money and taxpayer money, apolitical people's money, to lube up conservatives to advance the cause of conservatives in government. Biden, back in June, told Vox that he intended to fire PAC. I think he will fire PAC. That will be a happy day. And Biden, because can never resist a chance to get an elbow in at Elizabeth Warren and those damn liberals, actually cited the firing of the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau by Trump as a reason and justification for how he can go ahead firing Michael PAC. 1 second, I need to turn off my refrigerator. Yeah, for those of you wondering on the video feed, when I tape down here, the refrigerator's over here. It'll start doing the cool cycle and it'll get loud. I have to disable it whenever I'm taping down here. It's one of the reasons why I try not to tape down here too often, but I like taping down here. Blue sunlight, blue sky, sunlight. I need to stop blurring my words together. Biden does that too, and you will never hear me slag Biden for the word blur thing, because I totally, especially after all the years of captioning, totally suffer from word blur. All right. Now, you might have heard, and I think there is at least more than just Anthony Fauci and Voice of America reasons to be excited about this, that there is a new administration coming to town. And while it may not be the cup of coffee we all wanted, and it might not even be the cup of coffee we need, it is a better cup of coffee than the liquid shit we have been drinking for the last 4 years. And to that point, the person I feel strongest about in Joe Biden's picks has one of the most important jobs in the entire administration. And so that heartens me substantially. Ron Klain has been chosen as Joe Biden's chief of staff. Ron Klain served in the previous administration and was maligned as the Ebola czar. And I'm already seeing czars pouncing back up. Czars is to the Democrats what pounce is to the Republicans. It is a word, it's not as though pounce is never associated with the Democrats, as in the Democrats pounce on something. It's more associated with Republicans than Democrats. But my God, Trump doesn't have czars, despite all of his damn Russia ties. But Obama had czars. This is back, of course, when Russia was bad. Now, of course, they're great. But we're already hearing about czars again. Ron Klain was one of these czars. Ebola czar. If I was named Ebola czar, I would never change my name from Ebola czar. That is basically the Poison King. That is a badass name. He's now going to be the chief of staff, though. Super important job. And if you want kind of context for this, the kind of the gold standard in terms of chief of staff performance, based off of what DC people say, is James Baker. And on a previous episode, I even had a drop in of Bruce Carlson talking about James Baker and what James Baker brought to the table. He is a really, really good chief of staff. And James Baker was Reagan's chief of staff in Reagan's second term when Reagan started to have health concerns and acuity concerns, shall we say. Given the context of Joe Biden, I think that Ron Klain is stepping into a very important role. And I think everyone who is a savvy listener of the context I just gave can sort of glean what I'm saying about Joe Biden and Klain's dynamic and how it might be analogous to James Baker and Ronald Reagan's dynamic. The reason I like Klain so much is that Klain's a guy who studied infectious disease, gets infectious disease, takes infectious disease seriously, and will be pushing for serious policy when it comes to response on the coronavirus, which is a life or death matter in a way that has not been in our political sphere in such a long time. It's not Elian Gonzalez or Terry Schiavo or Masterpiece Cake Theater. Will this gay couple get a cake for their wedding? Like stuff that's like not unimportant stuff. But it's also not killing 250,000 people this year in the United States in 8 months. It's not infecting 1% of the United States population. It's not spiking to a couple 100,000 cases a day. Like this is an important thing. And Ron Klain gets that. It's going to be top of mind for him. It's his area of expertise. And a number of progressives have said that Klain's a guy who will at least hear them out. And that's super important too, because what that means is that, like, especially given the Biden administration, Biden saying, I've already got enough progressives in the administration. You're like, it's going to be hard to get stuff uphill. Klain might be the guy who serves as the laundering outlet for getting good stuff onto a bill or across the basically laundering progressive stuff. Klain might be the guy you can do that through. So I am cautiously optimistic about Klain. Other people, less so. Merrick Garland as Attorney General makes me want to slam my head into the table. Yes, Garland is owed something. Why do I say that? Because like the dude got completely slagged. It's kind of like how I feel about Sally Yates, who's also being considered for Attorney General. She makes more sense in my opinion because she was Deputy AG. But like Merrick Garland got completely screwed over by the Republicans who said, oh, yeah, we totally promote this guy. And then when it came time to promote this guy, because they told the Democrats to nominate that guy so that they could promote him, they fucked that guy over. Merrick Garland, you don't have to love him or anything like that, but he got done dirty. There's no denying that. I don't think AG is the right space for him. I mean, where should he be? He should be on the Supreme Court in Antonin Scalia's seat. And that's kind of the problem here is the place he should be is where he's not. I don't really know how you fix that one. Or in Clarence Thomas's seat, I guess when that one comes up here, or in, I mean, I wouldn't even want him in Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat. No, he should be in one of the Republican seats. Other names being considered for AG here from best to worst. I'm going to say Doug Jones. I think I like Doug Jones the most, even more than Sally Yates. I like Yates too. And then Deval Patrick would be at the bottom of that list here. Joe Biden has been saying that he doesn't want his presidency to be consumed with investigations of his predecessor. This is from NBC News, and I was reading this, and I was like, oh, man, this sounds familiar. Here's a little bit of let me read some copy from NBC in 2020, and then we're going to read some copy from ABC in 2009. NBC 2020. President-elect Joe Biden has privately told advisors that he doesn't want his presidency to be consumed by investigations of his predecessor, according to 5 people familiar with the discussions, despite pressure from some Democrats who want inquiries into President Donald Trump, his policies, and members of his administration. Biden has raised concerns that investigations would further divide a country he's trying to unite and risk making every day of his presidency about Trump. How the fuck? going to unite the country. Most of the Republicans, thanks to Donald Trump and the conservative media over the last 3 weeks, do not think the results of the election were legitimate. And like half the Republican Party believes that will only be sold even more in the fallout leading up to the 2022 midterms and then the Republican primaries. Like, he's not going to unite the country. It's delusional. Let me read a little more of the copy. I just, every time I see that, it drives me crazy, because it's like, people say to progressives all the time, how are you going to pay for that? But like, centrist and establishment types need to have this. How are you going to unite with that thrown in their face? Because like, they just say it like it's going to happen and it doesn't happen. Theme of the last episode, sort of fantastical centrism. The advisors to Joe Biden have said specifically that Joe Biden is worried about a tax investigation of Trump, really, or challenging any orders that Trump may issue, granting immunity to members of his staff before he leaves office. One advisor says that Biden has made it clear that he, quote, just wants to move on. Another said that he's more oriented towards fixing the problems and moving forward than prosecuting them. Can't fix them if you don't call them out, name, and shame. Now let's go back to 2009. Will the ghosts of the Bush administration derail Obama's agenda? Scott Mayerowitz, July 12th, 2009. As if he didn't have enough already on his plate, Barack Obama will now have to deal with something he'd hoped to avoid: revisiting Bush-era scandals. We need to look forward as opposed to looking backwards, Obama told George Stephanopoulos. But Eric Holder appears to be moving forward on his own. Spoiler, he didn't really move forward all that much. He ended up holding two people to account on this thing here. The Central Intelligence Agency issued a report saying that Dick Cheney withheld information from Congress involving a secret counterterrorism program that tortured people. This is another place that most assuredly you will see. Now, do you really believe that the Trump administration delivered all of the information that Congress requested during the Mueller probe? I mean, you really believe that? Yeah, no. And what happens when you don't hold it to account? Then it's fine. And what happens when you don't set up stricter penalties for the executive branch for when they withhold information? Then they do it again. That happened during the Bush years, and then it happened again during the Trump years. So you can use history to some extent as a predictive text, or you can use history as a way of checking predictions. In this case, it's like bing, bang, boom. Bush and the abuses of the Bush administration not held to account by the Obama administration, and then the Trump administration takes those abuses and makes them worse. Cornyn at the time in 2009 says he hopes that Eric Holder looks forward and not backwards. And then Feinstein washed her hands of the whole matter here. McCain also was pushing for that. But what worries me is that the House Judiciary Committee ended up saying to the Supreme Court that they are going to not further pursue an effort to get Robert Mueller's grand jury material from the Mueller probe into the 2016 election, the one that Trump cheated during, because they want to leave that up to Joe Biden and a new Congress to decide. Even though it happened on their watch and ultimately it's still well within their purview here, it really smells like the Democrats, the ones in leadership who apparently know better than all of us dumb rubes, have not learned some of the lessons from history. And they think that they're going to be able to work with a Republican Party that is going to, as Joe Biden put it, come to their senses. And I really hope, as I've said a couple of times now, that the last few weeks here have made it abundantly clear that QAnon's not going away. The Trumpspiracy, how he was screwed out of the election, is not going away. My candidate was screwed is a popular flavor in American politics these days. And that the conservatives seeking the Republican nomination next time are going to be rewarded for advancing Trumpy narratives like that. So there's no reward for being well liked. They just released favorability ratings for Republicans inside the party. And one of the people who had the lowest favorability ratings inside the party, Mitt Romney. The other people, Marco Rubio, Ben Sass, other people had very high approval ratings. So if you think that because Fox News ratings are going down and CNN's ratings are going up, that the Republican Party is moving to the center, no. They're changing the channel over to One American News Network, and some of the reasonable Republicans have joined like Lincoln Project type outlets or whatever, or Lincoln Project adjacent type stuff, and they like their Beltway Democrat flavor. Probably good for progressives at the end of the day. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth here, even if they're not necessarily coming to live in our stable. But yeah, the Republicans are not coming to their senses. And you need to look no further than the case of Kyle Rittenhouse. In the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, you see the fingerprints all over this. The MyPillow guy, Mike Lindell, involved heavily in the fundraising for this. But Lynn Wood, who is involved heavily in the recount Stop the Steal grift that the Trump administration was doing, was also heavily involved in raising the $2 million that was needed to post bail for Kyle Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse has been charged with first-degree intentional homicide of Anthony Huber, Joseph Rosenbaum, and the attempted first-degree homicide of Gage Grosskreutz. My thoughts are with the Huber family and the Rosenbaum family, who will be celebrating this Thanksgiving without their loved ones. Meanwhile, conservatives, in an act of unbelievable charity, just wonderful stuff, touching stuff on Thanksgiving week, has raised money for this guy who drove from out of state with a gun to shoot people who he knew were his political opponents, and put himself and inserted himself into a situation by his own choice and volition, and committed what appears to be allegedly political murder. And then he went talking to the Washington Post this week, trolls even further, talking about the coronavirus stimulus checks, saying that he used his unemployment checks to buy the gun that he used to kill people. Just sort of sticking in the eye of old welfare. Kyle Rittenhouse is a horrible, horrible guy. And I think 10 years ago, like McCain era, yeah, 2008, 2010, McCain would have come out strongly against Rittenhouse. Like McCain would not have approved Rittenhouse. And I think, to that point, you only need to look at like what happened with Gabby Giffords. McCain's language on that's pretty strong. But the Republican Party has drifted to the center, no, to the right, to the point where they are now doing GoFundMes for a political murderer. And they're encouraging more political murder. And as there is going to be more political protests and Republicans are out of power, and beginning to get the persecuted minority complex, one that they've already internalized even when they had power, but one that will be deeply internalized and pathologized now that they're out of power, there are going to be more Rittenhouses. There is a positive feedback cycle that creates more Rittenhouses and less Mitt Romneys. If you're looking for Mitt Romneys, you'd want GoFundMes for Mitt Romneys. If you're looking for more Rittenhouses, you make GoFundMes for Kyle Rittenhouses. This isn't going away. It concerns me to no end that this is not going away. And I think that the Democratic Party establishment, leadership, your CNN, MSNBC types, are not taking the problem anywhere near seriously enough. They think Biden's going to warm everyone's hearts. The de-Grinchification, as I called it, ain't going to happen. The one thing that Biden is going to do is bring the coronavirus to a heel, which is where we're going to finish off today here. And I mean, I'm legitimately hopeful about this. I think there's a lot of reasons to be hopeful. I've been worried about what if they get a vaccine. It's one vaccine. It's from, let's say, a country you don't trust, like Russia or China. And they get there first. It looks kind of okay, but then also kind of dubious and has mixed results. Or maybe it doesn't work out at all. And then people are really skeptical about a vaccine. And then like this goes on a really long time and we have no choice but to wait it out. very scary. And in a nation as large as ours, and with the infection rate as high as it is, it's been very scary. But you now have three different companies, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and Moderna, all announcing that they have vaccines. And that's positive. Because, even if Pfizer's doesn't work out, Moderna's might. If Moderna's doesn't work out, someone else's might. We might find out that one vaccine is really effective for one group of people and another vaccine is really effective for a different group of people. And between that, you get this great patchwork quilt of things. I mean, even in this is probably one of the only mild defenses of like the private healthcare industry. The one good thing, like the good thing they always say about capitalism is it leads to competition, and competition leads to more options. And if you were in one state, you'd have like one option. There'd be the state vaccine. If we were like a, kind of a more state run system. In this case, we have multiple vaccines to choose from, and that might mean they're all in some more effective. This is not a defense writ large of that system. It's just saying that, like, if you want to look at this, in this case, it's that system generating the positive thing that is touted about that system. So, optimism. I have a little bit of it. There's a finish line in sight here, but it is going to be a difficult home stretch. We have over 1.3 million dead worldwide since then. Over 60 million cases worldwide. The United States at a 1% current active caseload here, and Trump has not attended a coronavirus task force meeting in 5 months. So, yeah, Biden coming in here, he's going to put the kibosh on this, and the markets are excited about him for a number of reasons. But I think a really rational reason the markets are excited about him is because they see a finish line here in like 24 months. But it's going to be sooner than that. This time next year, you'll be listening to Don't Worry About the Government on your way to driving to your parents' house for Thanksgiving. Or your kids will be coming in and visiting you. You'll have me on as you're smoking the turkey or doing whatever you're doing. Or smoking the doobie, as it were, as you're driving to your parents' house, or taking your flight or whatever. Like this time next year, things are going to be good again. But right now and for the next several months, it's going to be really scary, and Trump doesn't care anymore. And so, why I wanted to end on the coronavirus thing is you get these three vaccines, and now we can kind of look back on the election and go, wow. This really was a referendum on Trump's coronavirus performance, and his job was actually pretty simple. Hold the line for about 10 months, 15 months. And if you hold the line for not 15 months, no, like 10 months, 8 months, 10 months. And if you hold the line for 8 to 10 months, provided you do so on that, then you'll be rewarded with re-election. And all you have to do is send off checks. Even when it comes to industries like the airlines and stuff, bail them out. People would rather see the airline industry get bailed out and people not flying around than see the photos of Sky Harbor, etc., Sky Harbor International Airport, where you've got people just stacked on top of each other flying around, because we all know what this means. We all know that having all these outlets open means these numbers are going to go way up. We have the Sturgis example. That Sturgis rally has completely ignited the North Midwest over the last like 3 months here because of what happened at that Sturgis rally. So, yeah, like Donald Trump, all I need to do is send off the checks. All he needed to do was tell people to shelter at home, and he didn't do that. And now he's not president anymore. There wasn't a grand conspiracy against him. It's just that he screwed up things so badly that he couldn't cheat his way out of this mess. Remember that old joke? I'd like to see Donald Trump wriggle his way out of this one. Well, nonetheless. Well, it's a funny joke, but it's probably time to retire that one because he ain't wriggling his way out of this one. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Thanksgiving. I am thankful for all of you. And that's going to do it for this episode of Don't Worry About the Government. You can find me at Chris Novembrino, ChrisNovembrino. You can find the show at DWATG. Our homepage is don'tworry.tv. Patreon.com/DWATG is where you go to support the show. Thing that you can do that is groovy. And you can also sub up on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spotify. Leave a review if you like the show. If you hate the show, stick it inside. Bury it inside. You actually don't have to leave a review. And if you're like a Ben Shapiro stan or a Jordan Peterson stan, that goes double for you. You actually don't need to listen to this show. Just throwing that one out there. But yeah, no, guys, I am so thankful for all of you, and I'm thankful for everyone who supports the show. I hope that you stay well, you stay safe, and find someone or something you're thankful or grateful for, and go appreciate the fuck out of it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.